Good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to our new edition of the AI Leadership Forum. Today I'm with Stephan, Eric, and Olivier, and the topic is AI corporate deployment, which we're going to answer. My guests are going to try and answer as many questions as you may have into the opportunity and the challenges of deploying AI inside a company. We're going to draw some parallel. And the reason I've invited these three gentlemen is because they are practitioners. They know what they're talking about. And when we invite people to the AI Leadership Forum, we, of course, like to add people who know what they're talking about and speak from first-hand experience. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Stephan. I'm the CEO and founder of System in Motion. I also rely on first-hand experience, but for today, I'm not here as an expert. I'm not here, I'm just here as a host, so I can ask questions that make sense. If you want to ask questions to our guests, you can use the chat. And by the end, the last 10 minutes, we're going to go around the room and answer these questions. Yeah. So now let my esteemed guests introduce themselves. Stephan, do you want to go first?
Yes. So I was saying good afternoon in Asia, good morning in Europe, and if you are in the US, please go back to bed. My name is Stephan Montigo. I'm founder of Ikumi Partners. We are an AI consulting agency specialized in what I call everyday AI, practical human-centric AI that makes work more efficient. So we help our clients accelerate their digital transformation with agentic AI systems that solve real problems fast, with implementation delivered in weeks, not months. And very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Stephan.
Thank you, Stephan, for this introduction, and thank you for keeping it short. Olivier, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Olivier Wang. I'm a Chinese, based on the last name. You should know that. So I work for Stephan. Stephan is actually my boss. Stephan Monzalier is my boss. I work for Stephan for more than 10 years. I grew from a program engineer to now the product manager of our AI platform, AI in Motion. Thanks to Stephan's help and thanks to Stephan's recognition. And I'm here to talk about the security and data problem that you could be interested in your corporate implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. And Eric, if you can introduce yourself quickly.
So hi everybody, I'm Eric Chevalet. I'm based in Paris, right on time actually, because nothing was working 2 minutes ago. I'm the founder of Tsunami. I have a long career in consulting and emerging tech, and I have decided to embrace the Gen AI, agentic AI paradigm by learning it directly and building a company that is basically AI native, in order to really explore how it was changing, or how it could potentially changing everything beyond the noise that we hear, and we have a chance to exchange more about that today.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. There is indeed a lot of noise every day, every week, every month. We hear a lot. And being technical people, we know that it's very difficult for business people, non-technical people to understand what's happening. And this is exactly why we're here today. So let me start with you, Olivier. At a very general level, what are the key differences between employees in a company using a public AI and the company having their own AI infrastructure in-house?
Okay, so the key difference, right? Usually, if you're in a company infrastructure, you will not. For most of the companies that I have seen, they don't have their own AI platform. They also don't encourage their employees to use the outside platform, because everyone knows if you enclose some confidential information to the outside system, you don't exactly know what will happen. They might use your data, they might not, but why not? Why take the risk? Why you don't have to? So The biggest difference in my mind is the security, is your data security. That's the thing you need to be worried about. If the guest, I mean all the listeners here, if you have been using the outside AI, which means the AI which is available, especially in China, you just have to provide your phone number, and then you receive a registration code, and then you can use it, right? Very convenient. You don't have to pay anything. But then for every question you ask, you will see a little thumb up button and thumb down button in there. You can imagine what that is for.
So when you don't pay, you know what they say, when the service is free, that means you're the product, right? So if you don't pay for it, meaning they have to find another way of making money, and using your data is the most obvious one. There are also some lawsuits. There's another one just coming out a couple of days ago against Google about all the AI company using websites and media outlets data, because this is how they train their model. Okay. So thank you for that explanation, Olivier. Now, Stephan, to you. There's a term that is floating around in the industry that is shadow AI. So when employees are using public AI, what Olivier was talking about, sometimes it's called shadow AI. Shadow AI doesn't sound like a good thing, does it?
Well, you're right. Shadow AI has a bit of a negative connotation, but it is also an opportunity in disguise. First, let's look at the definition. It is an extension of a term that the audience might know, shadow IT. And shadow IT, basically, it's do-it-yourself technology inside the workplace. You can quickly purchase a SaaS product, so this boosts productivity and innovation, but it is unmanaged. So it can pose, as Olivier mentioned, security issues, compliance issues, governance risk, security issues because your data is going into other systems. Your data is fragmented in many systems. You might have compliance issues with GDPR, for example. Your data is going outside of your legal jurisdiction. And also, it's inefficient because you have integration problems. All of that is not managed by your IT department. It's not evaluated by your compliance department. There's no oversight. So this is the problem of shadow IT. By extension, shadow AI is the use of artificial intelligence systems and tools without the approval, oversight, or governance of your IT department or your compliance department. And it happens very easily. As Olivier mentioned, you just need your email and you have access to lots of free AI tools. There are so many these days that you might be using AI even without knowing it. And you have your data who is going through various systems. And it is not the job of domain expert to be aware of all the risk. This is the job of compliance department, of IT departments. IT departments, part of their job, they look at security bulletin. So when there is an issue in a tool, they know it first, and they start to take the actions to mitigate the risk. So this is the reason why you shouldn't the employee in the organization shouldn't use AI in the shadow, meaning without informing the IT department, the compliance department, but they should work all together. So why is shadow AI also an opportunity in disguise? It's very simple. It's because it means there are unmet employee needs. There are unmet needs, opportunities to gain productivity, opportunities to innovate. So actually, banning AI is not the right solution in a corporation. You have to put in place a governance framework for your AI tools and processes. And in a nutshell, there's 5 key components of a good governance framework. There's the discovery phase. Of course, if you don't go meet the domain expert to understand their need, how they use AI today, how they wish to use AI, you can't know, you can't discover those software that those domain experts are using right now. Then, of course, there's the risk assessment. Once you've mapped everything that is used in the company, you have to assess the compliance of those various tools. Then, of course, there's the governance. If you don't have a policy, how can your domain expert know where the risks are? How can they know which are the approved suppliers? How can they know the guardrails, right? So it is important to publish your policy. And then what I think is the most important, and that's what we're doing here around this table, it's enablement. You need to give domain experts a sandbox. You need to give them tools so they can practice, but so they can also innovate, because they are the ones who know what are their unmet needs better. So you need to train them, you need to enable them with the technology so they themselves reinvent their tools. And lastly, of course, you need to have in place some kind of monitoring, continuous oversight, some KPIs to make sure that your investment and your change management is going in the right direction. So yes, Shadow AI is about managing risk, but at the same time, Shadow AI is revealing the needs of your company and potentially new business opportunity and innovation opportunities.
Thank you, Stephan. So I took the liberty of taking notes, and your four-step process happens to have 5, if I counted well: discovery, risk assessment, governance, enablement, and monitoring. And I agree with the blessing in these guys. What I really like are all these powerful tools that give you free credits, because then you can test them for real. You can really assess them. I did a study on some legal use cases, and I discovered that the startups that are coming that are AI first, they give you free credits and you can try them. The people who are coming from legal software, they don't let you test the software. You need to talk to a salesperson and they need to assess you. So it sounds like they put the governance before the delivery, which is kind of backwards. So thank you for this five-step process. I think it's going to be very useful for our listeners. So it seems there's an alignment in 2 out of 3 of my guests into the fact that companies must have their AI infrastructure. We can go out and test the system. So Eric, are you aligned with our 2 guests? Do you think companies should invest in their own AI infrastructure to ensure security and build competitive advantage?
Well, I think it's it's a twofold discussion here that we need to have. First of all, there is a reality check that needs to happen. Everyone is going to do shadow AI. Everyone is going to use whatever your tool is available and so on. So there's a really importance here to educate what it means in order to or what are the risks that you expose yourself with shadow AI. Then you need to distinguish what is the common usage of using shadow AI and basically like using Google. I would say that what risk do you take if you ask a professional question on Google versus on any AI tools, and then what are the data or the information that are proprietary to the company and that you don't want to expose. But then that means you need to build the tools or the infrastructure or the access that allow to monitor that. Where you need to be very careful is that, see, all the steps that Stephan described, they are right, but they need to happen in a very short time space, because the industry is going so fast that if you're starting to talk about governance, if you're starting to talk about building any specific infrastructure and so on, basically 2 years down the road, you will still be talking about it. And by then we'll be by GPT 17 already, and so you need to cope with that reality. So you need to make sure that there is some part of risk, there is some part of unknown. I'm not sure that everyone is actually using your data to train the model, even though you have the history of your conversations. Obviously, they are in their logs, so obviously they have access to that data, but still, do they use it? I mean, they already have read the entire internet, so pretty much everything has been read already. So is there more to read? I'm not so sure. So you need to qualify the risk properly. And beyond that, having your own infrastructure that has a huge cost. And basically it comes down to the question which is, what do you need to make versus what do you need to buy? Today, because the industry in such immature way, because we're still talking about emerging tech here, we don't have the best practice yet. We're still figuring it out. There is still a lot of governance question and so on. So do you need to make everything and to build everything, your infrastructure, your model, your tools and so on? Or is there somewhere a good in-between approach where you know you're going to have some stuff on the cloud? Is it going to be a private AI? Is it going to be leveraging some of the tools that exist? There is a cost balance to have. So you need to work on that, but you need to allow that it's not going to be a sealed environment. Everyone is going to use shadow AI no matter what, and you need to deal with that reality because if you, as Stephan put it, if you have hard barrier to prevent it, that's not going to help because people are going to find a way to figure it out. The gap in terms of what you can do with and without it, it's the old world versus the new world. It's like back in the 90s when we had internet and e-commerce. Yeah, everyone went to it, and the one that didn't went to it, they got sidetracked basically. So you need to pay attention to that as well.
So number one, there will be shadow AI, no matter what company are trying to do. So instead of forbid it, embrace it, and speed up the compliance. Do you have any insight on how you speed up compliance? Because by definition, these are antonymic, right? They're like, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, it is indeed. I have no idea how you do that. I've been fighting against compliance forever. But first you really need to educate people. I think the compliance issue is not about having a set of rules and preventing you from using any tools or blocking it on the firewall or any shit like this. Sorry, pardon my French. But you need to make sure that people understand actually what they are doing. I think that's the key point here is about educating and making sure. It's the same thing when you're on the train in Europe, okay? You don't deal on the phone with a business deal with a client out loud when you're surrounded by people. I mean, it's common sense. And we're talking about the same thing here, basically. So it's all about making sure people understand what's behind. I think that's how you speed up compliance. Edicting the rule and making sure that everyone has voted against it, that's a slow process, so forget about that.
Yeah. But we're all about education, so I couldn't agree more. Stephan, you wanted to add something?
No, I just wanted to emphasize what Eric was saying. To speed up compliance, train compliant first. So they understand not only the risk, they understand the risk in detail because they touch the technology, but they also grasp the opportunities. And I think, generally speaking, AI is, and that's what I usually say, it's 20% technology, it's 80% collaboration and change management. So if you want compliance to be fast, enable them. So they work on solutions to go fast and not on guardrails to minimize risk, because there will be risk, as Eric mentioned. That's true.
And they need to use it at first. No. They need to start by using it.
Be a practitioner. And compliance department, they generate or write those very thick documents. So text AI will be perfect for them to speed up analysis, generation, review of their very, very thick documents.
Yeah, and so everyone will use shadow AI to summarize the document. So
exactly, and translate. Yeah. So Stephan, we kind of established that there needs to be at least some components that are in-house, so they may be built or bought. So what are the key components of an AI infrastructure? Is it one AI model? Do companies need to train their own model? Is it one piece of technology, 20 pieces of technology? What's your opinion? What's your advice? What do you advise your customers these days?
Well, it's true that the AI model, the LLM, this is the acronym which is now very much known, large language model, is just one very small part of an AI infrastructure. You have to think of the AI infrastructure as a stack. The first layer, which is to me the most important and the less sexy, it's the data layer. That's where your information is stored, cleaned, secured. The technology is quite mature on that layer. With no data, there's actually no LLM. And all the trials that we see on the news prove that if you don't have the data, you cannot build LLM. So data layer is the most important one that every corporation needs to work on. Then, of course, there is this model layer that everybody knows. And you have hundreds of LLMs today, each specialized for different tasks like language, vision, reasoning. So here as well, it requires a little bit of understanding of which LLM to use for what kind of task. Then there is, of course, the orchestration and tooling layer. I mean, if you have just an LLM alone, you do nothing. You have an API key, and that's it. So you need an orchestration layer to connect the models, to build workflows, to connect to business systems, to make all of that run together. And they're the latest layer, and I would say this is the freshest layer where things are still being discovered. This is this famous governance and security layer, where you have to put in place some kind of ongoing monitoring of the compliance of the guardrails. So a good AI infrastructure should have those 4 layers. And very often with all the POCs that we see in those YouTube videos, they rush straight to an interface talking to an LLM, but you don't have a good data foundation. And I don't even speak about security and governance. It's just inexistent. So you have to really think of those 4 layers together. So in practice, we are not talking about one LLM. We are talking about several models connected through workflows, APIs. So you have a global system that is flexible, reliable, and easier to scale. But there is something quite specific on this AI technology that I would like to insist on. It has deep roots in open source software. Core foundational algorithms are open source, such as TensorFlow, PyTorch, or Hugging Face transformers. It's this openness that is creating this dazzling speed of innovation, where research, code, and pre-trained model are available across the globe pretty much every week. And it doesn't stop at the model themselves. Open source has also become a driver of innovation in the tooling layer, the orchestration layer. So that's the interfaces that employees use to interact with AI. It's the engines that run the LLMs efficiently. It's the guardrails that ensure security and compliance. There are many open source solutions available today, which are being improved continuously, offering enterprise alternative to potentially cost-effective commercial solutions. So this is something that is quite specific to this AI wave. Of course, in the operating system, we know Linux, which is an open source brick that exists for decades. And there are some industrial production heavy systems running on that open source software. Well, you have now a host of open source software for all the 4 layers of a good AI infrastructure.
Thank you.
So yes,
Thank you.
so
Yeah.
that's
Thank
those
you.
4 layers, and you have to make sure that you're not just playing with one and being happy with an MVP. Otherwise, you get into trouble.
Thank you, Stephan, for again that structural approach, and I put it in the chat. It is true that the AI industry from very, very early on has always been open. It has always been an open research, open sharing, and everything being published. And even though some companies are trying to make it commercial, remember that OpenAI is still a non-profit organization, and they still publish everything that they do at the model level. So this can be extended through the entire stack. Yeah. Thank you, Stephan, for that. Now I'm turning to Olivier. So thanks to Stephan, now we have an idea of the stack. But we see that every day, every week, sometime every hour, there's a new AI model. Those open source software that Stephan was mentioning, they are updated every day. So how does a company keep its internal AI fresh? Because when you buy a SaaS software, they do upgrade overnight. But when it's brought back into the company, how those companies are going to maintain their solution up to date?
I would say think of it as a if you guys know hardware, think of it as a CPU on your board. That when there's a new generation comes out, you test it on your spare environment. You confirm that it works with your hard drive, with your Windows, or with your Mac. It works fine, and it's much better than what you have now. Then you pick up a time, you switch it. Don't rely on one single technology. You might think it's easier to stick with one thing, and never change it for decades. That could give you somehow a very stable environment, but it's missing the innovation part. And AI is all about innovation. If you don't embrace the new changes, your AI solution is going to be outdated. And you'll quickly notice, oh, he can create PPTs just writing a small introduction, and you cannot, because you don't have the new technology. And soon you will be shadowing AI using outside systems because your internal system doesn't fit your needs. So the most important thing is to build your AI system, or you can also buy a SaaS platform that allows you to switch to the new model, to add to the new technology, or even to import some of the open source components, open source services that enables you to do some more things, some new things, some innovative things.
But to go back to your example of upgrading a computer, that is complex, messy, and not everybody knows how to do that. But for AI models, is it very difficult to move from one generation to the next one, or are there ways we can make it easier and less painful?
Actually, that's also a good question, because I may have used a wrong example. So in our let's take example of our AIM platform. We built one that we can isolate the data storage part, which means the data are processed and stored in a safe place. And then when you want to access the data, you can choose different models. Then in the sense of, if you have a new model, you say, for example, the GPT-5, right? It's out several months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, right? We can plug GPT-5 into our system and test with our old test cases before, with GPT-4o, or even with DeepSeek v3. We compare the results. If at the end we see, oh, GPT-5 gives much better results, or GPT-5 gives poor results, then we need to think about how do we modify our prompts, or how do we modify the ways to access the data to make sure that our system can be compatible with GPT-5. But in the end, it has to be designed in the beginning, so that the models are just one part of the tool. It's not the core of the system that cannot be replaced.
It sounds like with AI and with a good architecture, the one Stephan was describing, we've achieved something that is overly used and not often delivered, which is plug and play. It sounds like true plug and play for the first time in my 30 odd years of career, that we have a true plug and play technology that are building blocks that we can assemble very easily. That's good news. Now, Eric, all of this has a cost. So that cost is investment for company, and companies, they look for return on investment. They're not just looking at technology for the fun of having new technology. So how much ROI you think a company today, we'll talk about, like, today, the company starts a AI project today in 17th of September 2025. We have to date it because things are changing fast. How much ROI you think a company can reasonably estimate on an AI initiative?
Well, thanks for asking the question, Stephan, because I think it's the wrong question to ask, actually. See, we are looking at it like, is there a return on investment into what we are doing? And I think you need to understand that, first of all, if I go back to the 90s, I don't think that Jeff Bezos ever asked if there were ROI on creating Amazon. Okay, it was behind, and I think you need to look at it from an opportunity standpoint. And when you look at opportunity, the question is not so much how am I going to make out of that project. The question is, where will my company be in 5 years down the road, and will I have created the lever that makes me very competitive against the rest, or will I just stay as it is today? And I think when you look at generative AI and even more agentic AI, you really need to look at what are the levers that I can create in order to change the paradigm and make me more competitive than my ecosystem, basically, and that competition. And that's where you need to look at it as well from something we haven't touched, which is what is the impact on my operating model, and how do I transform the way I do things? And for me, it's very clear that the whole agentic wave, it's about changing your operating model to make it an hybrid operating model, where basically you want to make sure that agents and people are collaborating together. And when we are talking about building the infrastructure and so on, you need as well to understand that behind that, there's a key strategic question, which is make or buy. And we all know that cost-wise, the make is a lose end, because you're going to be slow. It's going to cost you money. You're not leveraging among 10, 50, 100, or even 1,000 clients. You're building it for your own. So no matter what, the cost will be huge. Okay, and the cost will be huge in a fast-paced industry. So on top of that, whatever you're doing now that is slow, 6 months down the road, likelihood that it is obsolete is a reality. So you really need to look at, okay, what are the bets I'm taking in order to buy some of the solution? And you were talking, Olivier, about some infrastructure that are plug and play, Stephan, to take your image. And that's what we're doing with Tsunami, basically. How do you buy 80% of the infrastructure, but you use that infrastructure to leverage 20% of the agentic that will make the competitive difference? And that's how you need to think of it. So it's not a question about a ROI now. It's a question about a strategic intent. And we all know that when we're talking about a strategic intent, there's not a question about ROI. It's where do we want to position ourselves later down the road, and what is the cost of doing nothing? And if I take an example that we all know, Kodak decided back in the 80s or back in the 90s to do nothing about digital picture, and we all know what was the cost out of it. Okay, and that's what we are seeing today. And I took as an introduction the example about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Trust me, he saw the opportunity, and the switch in paradigm with agentic AI is pretty much in the same magnitude as internet and e-commerce was back in the 90s. It changed how we do things. That's what we need to do. And that's why the notion of AI native versus AI augmented is an important notion to understand, because you want to project yourself 5 years down the road. Where would I want to be? And doing nothing might be a strategic choice, but it has to be a strategic choice. It doesn't have to be something because you avoid the reality. So for me, no. To answer your question, plain and simple, there is no ROI short term. That's the wrong question. The question has to be at a strategic level and foreseen in 5 years down the road.
But you do know, and you do see that companies are still asking that question. And
I know, and they're still going through a proof of concept, and they want to do some MVPs and whatnot. But I think they need to look at it like, what is my strategic intent, and then write the roadmap back to today. What do I need to do today in order to achieve that strategic intent? That's how they need to look at it. And maybe they want to look at it more as an investment, and an investment has no ROI, versus a project that will allow to make some savings or whatever is behind. There will be a phase where it's going to cost no matter what.
I think we're getting back to the issue that we previously discussed with governance. I mean, in order to make it strategic, that means the executive committee need to understand AI, and the best way to understand is to be a practitioner, right? So, exactly. Stephan, you wanted to add on top of what Eric was saying?
Yes, I wanted to emphasize something that Eric said, which is to me very important on the make or buy. And Eric is absolutely right that the make is a difficult decision to take if you work with traditional IT service partners. Everybody now is evolving to integrate generative AI in their skill set, but they still work the same way that they used to work, deploying CRMs, ERPs, CMSs, data management platform, and it can be quite long. And that's the reason why, because of this amazing pace of innovation in AI technology, that AI native IT service company are launching since a couple of years. And those AI native players work a different way because they have understood the pain point of going as fast as innovation. And to answer partially a question of Thomas in the chat, because there are some competitive differentiation opportunities. Obviously, if you use AI just, quote unquote, just to do a little bit better what you are used to do, you are not fully grasping the opportunities here. With AI, there is an opportunity to reinvent or to completely innovate into new areas. But the key criteria always is you have to do it fast. And doing it fast does not mean you can't scale responsibly, does not mean that you have to give up compliance completely. And this is where AI native IT service partner are a little bit in advance compared to traditional IT service partner because they are being born into this technology wave. They don't have any legacy procedure, processes, technology to migrate in order to go to that pace. So I think make or buy, I would go towards make, but with the right partners.
Maybe you both use a term that is AI native. It makes sense to me, but maybe it doesn't make sense for our audience, and maybe they hear that term for the first time. So Stephan, can you try and define AI native?
Sure. To make it simple, part of my staff, it's AI tools. We force ourselves to live the dream, quote unquote. So basically, I program myself with some tools to learn how that works. How is that possible? And basically, in our working process, into our service offering, working with our clients, we are doing things a totally different way. And we are experimenting all the time by using the tool in our own service. So that allows us to go faster. And usually there is a little bit of correlation between speed and total cost of ownership. If you do a similar scope faster, well, it tends to be cheaper. So we are trying to live what we tell using AI in our daily processes in the way we interact with our customers.
In other words, if some of our participants are approached by a company and they say, we're going to help you to use AI, the first question they should ask, are you using AI yourself? And if they say no, they should move on because they are not AI native, right? That's another way of saying the same thing, right?
That's a good shortcut, yes.
Okay. How do you see companies using AI today, Stephan? Because Eric has given a very clear definition of like forward thinking, future-proofing company. But today, what's the most typical use case you see, or the best use case that you see today?
Well, first of all, I think we're just at the beginning. We haven't discovered completely what we will be able to do in companies. And in a nutshell, AI is the opportunity to rethink and reinvent, and not just IT systems. Most importantly, operating processes and even your corporate strategy. But we already see 3 areas where you can investigate in the short term. The most obvious one, it's productivity gains, where you have repetitive task, high frictions task. You can free up time of your teams so they can focus on higher value work. And this everybody has understood, and most of the use cases, they are in that area. So those are the low-hanging fruits that you need to work on. The second area is to leverage your data, your knowledge, because suddenly you have the technology to sift through unstructured data. And there is a lot of data in a company, a lot of logs in which you can gather insight, structure insight, and then support faster, better decisions or invent new services because there is value in your data. And then the third area, of course, it's new capabilities. It's this opportunity to for competitive differentiation. So here you can embed AI into customer experiences, products, services, and differentiate and generate a new growth. So those are the three area. And often I refer to AI transformation as the second episode of digital transformation. Episode 1 started with the invention of the internet in 1969 and the web in 1993. And it was all about strategic alignment, technology stacks, and execution discipline. Episode 2, AI transformation, started with the release in 2017 of the transformer algorithm by Google. That kicked off the generation of LLM. It follows the same story arc, but as Eric said, the playbook is fundamentally different. Here it's all about dazzling speed of innovation, very short test and learn cycle, and of course, this is the new area, responsible scaling, compliance, and so on. And you can only do that by keeping human in the loop. Ultimately, only human, not AI system, will figure out the risk and the anomalies in your processes. That's why I often say, if you feel you are late or stuck in your digital transformation, well, skip straight to AI transformation. Every company has the potential to take advantage of AI, and the best time to start is literally today at the end of this webinar. Try AI, try it fast. Don't limit yourself to your usual consulting partners. Dare try new AI native service firms. They will empower your staff to innovate, to embrace experimentation. And most of all, treat this as a journey of testing and learning and reinventing your company. Sorry for the long answer, but I think really it's more than IT. It's about a deep transformation.
Yeah. So thank you, Stephan, because you're giving me a list every time, and I can post it in the chat, and I think that will help participants to remember. Before I hand over to Olivier, I have a question on that list that you gave: accelerate low added value tasks, leverage data, and build new capabilities. Do you think companies need to go through these in order, or some company can jump straight to building new capabilities?
In terms of how you do this, the short answer, and actually this is how we do it with our clients, it's with the domain experts. If you deploy a technology that stays in your drawer, it's useless. It's the domain expert that's gonna use what you enable them to invent and build. So it's really a case-by-case basis. In some companies, there are lots of low-hanging fruits, lots of highly low-value repetitive tasks, and that's where we start. Other companies are very mature. They are very mature. They have systems everywhere, but they didn't have time to think about new capabilities, and that's where we focus, because suddenly AI gives new possibility, and then we do pure innovation, open innovation workshops, and we invent new services. So it's really the front line that will decide in what order things happen.
Okay. Plus, when you get rid of those low added value tasks, you free up time that they can reinvest in the next thing. Yeah. And then last question before we move to. So first of all, Olivier, you wanted to add something, and then I have a last question for you, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay. So my hearing about what Stephan said about low hanging fruits. Recently, I have also met some providers and some AI technology that is really easy to implement, and people and companies can take care, can invest on this and get good in return. For example, the AI digital human for interview, and AI digital human for internal training. These are very promising fields that the HR department might be interested. The investments are really low, and you get very good results on the try.
Okay, so again, speed. We heard several times. Several of you have mentioned speed, and
Yeah.
it is definitely a good part of the game. So maybe Olivier, the top one or top two mistakes that you've seen a company doing when they try to deploy their own AI infrastructure to avoid maybe some mistakes to our participants today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the top one mistake on my side is kind of what Eric mentioned before, the compliance. Every time a big company, usually it's a very it's the big company tends to do that. Before we want to embrace the technology, they have to go through the compliance, the governance, and there's the talk, and there's the meeting, and so on and so on, and they don't make any action.
Okay.
And then they finally stop the project. Usually at the end they stop the project because they cannot see the ROI, which is the wrong thing that they should be thinking about, right? Okay. And the second risk the second problem I see with talking to our clients and seeing the companies on the internet, what they are doing is they think, okay, I can do this with AI, but I can also do this without AI. So I'm very comfortable with using the old technology to do my stuff. I don't have to do this. I don't have to embrace this. Everybody says it's helpful. I tried it. It's giving me shit. Then I don't like it. This is the mindset change that you have to embrace, right? This is the second problem when the second most popular problem amongst my potential leads, my potential clients, and that I see on the internet.
Yeah, because they're looking at the cost and not the value.
Yeah, yeah. They're most likely always considering that for every cost you have to demonstrate or prove that it will generate value afterwards. But AI is not something like that. I agree what you said, Eric, before. Consider it as an investment. Consider where you want to be 5 years from now and what you have to be, what you have to do right now.
Thank you. So we do have a lot of questions, long questions from our audience. So let me try to summarize. So first question from Fabien is about employee data. So employee data, of course, it has to be covered by compliance. So what is your recommendation for employee data, manipulating them and giving them to the AI or not at all to the AI? And also because it all relates to fairness and biases. Who wants to take that first question? Anybody has an opinion on manipulating employee data with AI?
Yes. So here we have to get into a little bit of implementation details. I'll try to make it short and not too complex. The answer to that question, Fabien, is changing almost every month. At the beginning of this year, there was no practical answer to that, because basically you could get only quality intelligence only going through remote systems. So to make it short, you had to use OpenAI and you had to give your data to OpenAI. There's been tremendous changes in this year over the past 6 months with very good open source models that can run on reasonably cheap hardware. So you have lots of models coming from China, and OpenAI itself also has released GPT open source, GPT OSS. So now you can get good quality intelligence that you can run on your hardware. And if you run that on your data center, while you have a full control on your data, on your employee data, There is still, of course, ethical use. You need to make sure that only the relevant people in your company access the data. And if you don't have the budget, because it is still powerful hardware you need to purchase, the IT service value chain also is evolving quite fast. You have now services where you can provision your private version of an open source LLM in your private instance, making sure that your data is not used by any other company, and you are more on a pay-per-use model for a much lower budget. So the technical solutions exist, and the good news is it's getting better and better. So in the make scenario, if you have to make your own technology to make sure you are compliant, the solutions are getting better and better.
Thank you. Second question, I guess, will be more for Eric. So Thomas is asking, make is usually because you have a unique selling point and you want to have that competitive advantage. So do you believe that generic AI on the market can deliver a true competitive advantage?
Well, for me, it's not a 100% make or 100% buy. And typically with Tsunami, what I'm doing is I'm building the infrastructure to make sure that you can buy 80%, but make the 20% that makes the difference. And here we're really talking about agentic AI more than regular LLM chatbot interference. But with agentic AI, you really need to look at your operating model. How are you going to impact it by deploying agents on the operating model? And again, operating model, for everyone to make sure we're aligned, it's an organization, a set of processes to define what that organization, how that organization is working, and a set of tools to support the execution of the process. Okay, you need to look at those three topics at once and define what it means to deploy agents. So it's not about 100% make or 100% buy. And you're right that your USP is coming from how you define your agent for your own need, and that you need to make, because that's the competitive advantage you need to build. But as a matter of fact, as I heard as well in the discussion, a big chunk of work is about the 80% that you need to buy that don't need to be reinvented every time you have a new project. And that's what we're talking about. And the change in paradigm compared to what we had before, and that's the new playbook, is that when you look at agentic AI, and when you look at a traditional architecture that you have with the data, the business logic, and the front end, all of this is going away, because now we have a different way to interact. We can ask questions, we can get answers, and then you can hit directly the data level. And me, I will make the distinction here between what we talk when we mention data versus what is about LLM that can digest information. Okay, and an information by definition, it's something that is unstructured, not typed into a data set field and everything like this. So how do you manage that information, which is your true knowledge actually? And that's the main difference between before and now, is that now you can read text easily.
Yeah. So we're going back to that old Italian fellow Pareto, that 20% of the top will give you 80% of the value, 20-80. That's a universal law that is still proven today. Exactly. Third and last question we can cover in the time we have left. And I guess this one fits naturally with you, Olivier. So Christina is asking, so the most IT mature company, they have their system, they have APIs, microservices. So is it easy, and how do you bring AI into those classic IT solutions that are there?
Okay, this is very common. So imagine you are working with a ERP or with a CRM or ERP like Salesforce, for example, and did you know that Salesforce has their own MCP server that any tool calling enabled LLM can directly use? So with these old systems, either you have API or you have file transfer FTP server that you can upload files to talk with the system, or you have any other ways to interact with the system. You can look for existing MCP server solutions, or you build your own MCP server solutions to connect the system directly with your AI with your AI infrastructure. You don't have to do a lot of additional development. This is the advantage of the AI and the open source community. You can take it and directly use it. Normally, okay, so take my company as an example. We have a subscription on a platform called HubSpot. And recently, they have developed their beta version of the MCP server. And then all we have to do is spend like 1 or 2 hours reading their documents, building our own MCP server, connect with our own identity, and then our AI system is already able to talk with our HubSpot. And then I can ask questions like, what are the most interactive contacts on my list? Who should I contact first? These kind of questions you can answer with the real data. And the integration only takes us half day.
So because MCP is a standard, any LLM can connect to any system as long as they use that standard and protocol, right? Eric, very quickly, because we are at the end of
very
our...
quickly on this, you need to be very careful because first of all, the value is not in the MCP server, it's in the MCP client. That's the first thing that you cannot ignore. And when you want to build some advantage, it's on the client that you need to work on. That's the first thing. And the second thing, if you open everything with the MCP server, back to the beginning of our conversation about compliance, you're exposed to a big time trouble right there. So you want to be careful with that MCP story, and you really need to understand where the value sits, and the value for the client is on the MCP client and on the host, not on the other side, which is just the plug base.
Yeah, I totally agree with the value with the value part, and also what Stephan mentioned before is that you have different layers, right? You have the AI layer and then you have the security layer. That's something you have to build with your company with your corporate implementation. So you don't have the problem with MCP exposing publicly and anybody else can access your data.
So thank you very much, gentlemen. For the participants, we had 10 minutes for Q&A and we have more questions than we can answer. But that means we probably need to do again this presentation in 6 months because things will have changed. Thank you very much for all the participants. We're preparing the next AI Leadership Forum, and next month the topic will be AI and sustainability. So sustainable AI and the usage of AI in ESG and sustainability. You register to our newsletter. I just put the link inside the chat, so you'll be informed of our next webinar. So see you all next month to talk about AI and sustainability. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.